Alright, so today is a little bit of a different video. Today I'm just gonna show you guys a super quick, simple setup of a booklight. A booklight is definitely the way to go when it comes to getting the best possible natural look. And this is a reason why you shouldn't use a softbox. Let's get right into it. So what's nice about softbox is that softboxes are nice for a small room where you don't have any space for big booklight like this. So in this case, you know, this looks pretty good, but we could definitely make it better. Right now, all of the windows are kind of overexposed, and if you take a look at my false color, as you can see, the window and the light that's coming in from the windows are at 77 IRE, which means it's definitely clipping. So what we need to do is use a ND filter on our camera if you want to shoot wide open, and if you want to shoot at the base ISO of 800. So we would need to use the ND filter to bring down the exposure to get the correct exposure for the windows. And like every other great cinematographers out there, if you want the best possible footage, you have to light for the space and not for the face. This is what happens when you expose for the face. You kind of have all of this information in the highlights broke. Like there's no information in the highlights. So that's the first thing that we gotta do. Now that we got a proper exposure for the windows, as you clearly can see, everything else is underexposed. So this is where we bring in the light. But before that, I'm going to change the white balance to 5500 Kelvin because that is the light source of the Aputure 120D, and the daylight is 5600. So around the 5500 Kelvin to 5600 Kelvin. So this is a good start. Let's set up the lights. So to use the booklight, I'll be using two light stands with a pole going across so that we can mount a shower curtain. The shower curtain is our budget option of a bleached muslin. You could buy a bleached muslin at your local Michael's or your art department stores, but in this case, in our example, we'll be using our just typical light stands with our shower curtains. So first, like any other, films and lighting your scene, you want to get your frame first. So after you get your frame, which we like, I'm going to motivate the daylight coming in. So I am going to set up a light stand, and I'm going to set up our booklight around here. And with any cinematography tips and tricks, you always want your light source to be the biggest and the softest. The bigger the light source and the closer to the subject it is, the softer your light's going to look. So that's what I'm doing right now. I am setting up my frames for the diffusion that we're going to use. So I'm going to make this tall as possible, just so that we get the best possible result. This video might be a long one, so just grab your drinks, grab your favorite snacks, and we will get going. So right now I am setting up my frames for my shower curtain, which will be a perfect budget option for a diffusion. So what I'm doing is I'm putting this light stand with this backdrop. So this is just a backdrop kit from Amazon. They go for like 40 bucks. They're pretty affordable, and they're great for booklights because these don't hold a lot of weight, and the shower curtains are perfectly light enough to the point where they actually fall down and hurt your subject. So imagine this setup as a interview setup where you're interviewing your subject, or you're doing a candid shot of your actor in a short film or something, and this is the type of frame that you want to go for. So right now I can clearly see the frame is in the shot, therefore I'm going to move this a bit farther back, and now this is probably the closest I can get with the frames without the frames being in the shot. So right now, as you can see, we're still exposed for the windows. There's no details. It's probably super noisy. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to put the shower curtains. This is pretty much a translucent shower curtain that you can buy from Walmart for like 20 bucks. And this is honestly a great budget option when it comes to getting the best possible soft light source using your Aputure 120D or whatever lights that you have. So now with a book light, essentially you're bouncing off of a bounce board or a second diffusion, and then you're bouncing that signal, you're bouncing that light onto the big shower curtain. So essentially it creates this giant softbox that gives a better result than anything else that you would use typically. So if I bring this camera closer to bring you guys along with the action, different style. What I'm doing right now is I'm setting up my shower curtains and my light. So I'm using the Aputure 120D as my key light, and pretty much what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this to bounce off of a bounce board that I bought from dollar store. You can use any foam board that's white and it acts as a bounce board. And I am going to kind of angle this 45 degrees out like this. And I'm going to grab another light stand with a clamp on the end so I can clamp my bounce board. And make sure that when you guys are doing this book light, make sure that you have the space for it. And again, that's the advantages of a softbox. Softboxes come in different sizes, therefore you can light in smaller scenes, smaller locations. However, when the client has the budget and place for a bigger set, a book light is definitely the way to go. It will definitely give more soft result, giving you that more filmic look that Roger Deakins and all of top cinematographers use. So now that I have the light roughly in place, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a bounce board. So just give me a sec. So I have a 3-in-1 reflector disc, which can be used as a reflector or a diffusion itself. So if you guys don't have any space for a giant book light, you could always use a 3-in-1 kit like this to light your scene. But in this case, I'm using this to bounce the light that's coming out of my Aputure, and I'm going to clamp it on like this, and I am going to kind of angle it so that it's shining the light back at the book light, at the shower curtain. So your shower curtain would be your typical softbox where it's 45 degrees off of the camera angle, and then whatever you want it to hit, you're using the Aputure light and the bounce board to bounce that light onto the book light. So now that I roughly have this in place, I'm going to make this a bit taller so that we have that proper 45 degrees angle down, and then I'm going to lower my lights just like so. That's pretty straightforward. And then let's power the Aputure light. So this setup will take around 30 minutes depending on how much experience you have, and if you have a gaffer with you on set. However, because I'm by myself today, it will take me some time to edit and post this video. However, I'm hoping that this video will help you guys make better content. So I'm connecting the Aputure right now, and what's nice about this is you don't need any fancy light stands to do this, because you're using a book light system where you're bouncing the light off of the Aputure. You're going to create a very natural light source without having to rig your light to the ceiling or anything like that. All right, so now roughly I have the light and the reflector in this position, and I'm going to finish setting up my lights. So connect the power cable, and again, if you're doing this in a studio, make sure to gaff tape your cables down so that people don't trip and fall and make your clients look embarrassed or anything like that. All right, so now that that's plugged in, sparking. And now if you take a look at the exposure levels, we're starting to get a little bit of light onto our face, but this is still underexposed. Therefore, we gotta increase therefore this is still kind of underexposed. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to change my Cine EI I'm going to change my Cine AI to 2500, and I'm going to bring this down to 1250. And now we have much more exposure to our skin tone. However, we're still kind of underexposed. Therefore, I'm going to use a shower curtain and increase the exposure. And now that I have this here, the exposure is pretty good. And again, with the skin tones lying around the 46 IRE, this looks pretty good.